Hi everybody, welcome to the Fabulous Empty Nest with me, your host Angie. This is week 3 for the Mom Hug Stitching for Awareness sweater. And I am a little behind. I have a visitor this week. My son Ben came to visit us and he arrived last Wednesday, and it has just been so much fun, but I have not been doing what I'm supposed to be doing. So, well, yes, I am. I'm supposed to be hanging out with my son, and that's exactly what I've been doing. But anyway, first I just want to say, if you're new here, welcome. And I'm so glad that you found the Fabulous Empty Nest. And if you are not new and you're returning, I just want to say thank you for your support. Glad you're coming back. This is a crochet along that I decided to do for the month of April to bring awareness for autism. I am a mother of a child on the spectrum, and I really am grateful to all of the organizations that were there for me when I was I wouldn't say a young mom, but I was a mom who had no idea how to help her son. And we had a lot of organizations in Nashville that were great, who helped families who had children on the spectrum. And so what we're doing is we're making a couple of sweaters, and then I'm going to have these auctioned off at one of our local Autism Awareness organizations. So we have 3 sweaters. I made one. It's a long sweater, and it's done in blue, red, green, and yellow, but I did not use primary colors. I used more muted colors. And I will be sharing that on week 4. And then my friend Sarah over at Crochet with Coffee sent over a beautiful sweater, and so that one will also be auctioned off. And then there is this one, and this is the one I'm working on right now, and this is called the Mom Hug sweater. And so currently what we have the back, which is 4 squares, and then we have the front, which is 1 panel, and then we have the right panel, so the left panel and the right panel, which I have attached at the top, leaving this nice neck space. So I think we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 clusters that are not crocheted into. And then we've got 1, 2, 3 clusters on this front panel that I didn't use, which creates this nice little neckline. So today what we're doing are, we are working on putting the sleeves together. So, sorry about the light. My huge ring light, I knocked it over and it broke. And I have a new one on the way, but it has not arrived yet. So I have 4 of these panels, and these are just, before I joined them, I made the circle, and then I made it into a square with 1 row of black. And then I joined these 2 together, and then I did 1 more row around the outside of both of these. I have 1, 2, 3, and 4. So essentially, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna change my camera view so I can kind of show you what I'm doing, and then we will. Okay, so this is the top of the sweater right here. This is the neck. And so essentially what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay out my sleeve up against this outer arm right here. So I'm putting this side face down, or right side down, and then I'm going to do this one right side up, like this. And the way that I do this, I'm going to start joining these 2 right here at this first corner, and I'm going to bring it all the way across the top and attach right here in this corner. What I'm also going to do is probably frog this right here and make it 1 long seam all the way across. Right now I have this seamed, but I think I'm going to pull this out and just use some stitch markers to hold it together and then I'm going to seam across the top of the arms, all the way across the top, and then join these right here at this corner, and then go all the way to the third to the last cluster before you get to the end. So I believe that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to do that, and then I'll meet you back here in just a moment. Start every join with a little knot. I'm a knotter. and then I'm just going to chain one and then slip stitch in that corner. And then I'm going to slip stitch in the corner of the back sleeve. And then I'm literally slip stitching in the front and then slip stitching in the back. Slip stitching in the front, slip stitching in the back. And it makes this really nice textured ridge that I happen to really like for my chunky mom hug sweaters. This is going to be a really nice sweater. It's very chunky, and I'm using the anti-pilling yarn, which is going to hopefully keep it really nice for a while. The black is not anti-pilling yarn. It is just the Big Twist. I think it's the Big Twist Value, I believe. Yeah, it's the Big Twist Value. Which I really do like. I was never a Big Twist fan until Joann's actually closed, and then Michael's started carrying it. Did I even start buying Big Twist? But a lot of my friends on YouTube do like it. And honestly, when making like Afghans and stuff like that, I think it's such a great yarn. It's very comparable to me. I think it's very comparable to the Michael's Loops and Threads yarn. It's got the same weight feel to it. But my favorite yarn, like if I'm gonna make a sweater and it's not a chunky sweater, my favorite yarn to make a sweater out of, as far as acrylic yarn goes, is the Yarn Bee low pill fiber yarn. That is my favorite when it comes to making garments. It doesn't feel as thick and bulky as Big Twist or Loops and Threads. And I think that it just behaves better when we're talking about garments. It has a better flow to it, and it drapes nicely when making garments. Okay, so we've made it all the way across, and I am now crocheting into the last two into the corner. And so what I'm going to do now is start working in the front and back of this sweater. So I have it marked off on where I'm going to stop. So I'm going to go over to that corner and this corner. And then I'm going to start working across the top of this. I am trying to venture out a little bit when it comes to yarn and try new things. I have a $600 budget for yarn for the month of May. And so I'm trying to decide where to buy it from. And I only want to buy it from one place. I don't want to buy it from a bunch of different places. So I'm trying to decide, do I buy it from Hobie? Do I buy it from Premier? Do I buy it from Hirschner's? Do I buy it from Hobby Lobby? Like, I just don't know. But I'm going to make that decision soon. All right, so I've made it to my stitch marker. I'm going to take that out because it's getting in the way. And all right, so I have stitched this arm to the sweater, but now I need to stitch it from here up. So basically what I do is I'm just going to turn this, and I'm going to put my sides together. I've got my corner. And I'm just going to start right here. And go ahead and stitch this side up. Oops. Start with my knot. I'm just going to do a slip stitch. And then I'm going to slip stitch in each stitch and between each cluster. So this is easy because the clusters just match right up nicely. So you should be able to have a nice even amount of stitches. Okay, so one of the fun things that Ben and I decided to do is to watch Love on the Spectrum together. So if you haven't seen Love on the Spectrum, it is fabulous. And I started watching it quite a while ago, and I tried to get Ben to watch it and he wouldn't watch it. So now we're gonna do the same thing back here. We're gonna seam this up on the back side. But anyway, he wouldn't watch it. He just wasn't interested. And so I watched it, and when he got here this time, somehow we got on the subject that I was watching Love on the Spectrum season 4, and he's like, well, maybe I'll watch that with you. And I can't tell you, like, one of the things I've learned with my son is that I can't act too excited, because if I act too excited, then it's going to turn everything back the wrong way. So I was like, yeah, sure, cool, whatever you want to do. If you want to, that's cool. Yeah, no problem. But inside I was like jumping up and down, crying, laughing, you know, hysterically, because I was so excited. And so we are now on season 3, and he's loving it. And I have to be really careful. Like, I can't cry or get too excited about the characters in there because he'll shut down. So I'm just having to like practice being like the cool mom and not too interested or too like anything like that. The other night we went out to dinner, and he says to me, Mom, your feng shui in your house is so good. And I was like, really? And he's like, yeah, like I've never heard my son say the word feng shui in my life. And he's like, yeah, it's really nice. I like the way it feels. Everything just flows nicely. And, you know, I just think it's really good. He goes, you've always had really good feng shui in your homes. And I was like, well, thank you, honey. I appreciate that. And he goes, I'd like to have that in my apartment. And I was like, again, this is one of those moments where you have to just tread so gently, right? And everything inside me was like, well, great. Let's do your apartment. Let's you know, when I come in June, we can just like do all this stuff, blah, blah, blah. And then I was like, okay, yeah, well, you just let me know, babe, like whatever you want to do. But inside, like I was already checking stuff off my Amazon list of things we could use in his apartment to like organize. I was so excited. I was like, I did say, well, we could, you know, start with just like a good deep cleaning of your apartment, like a deep clean. And then we could start looking at organization and changing your feng shui. And he was like, yeah, totally. So like that kind of stuff is a mother's dream. Serious, like this mother's dream. Might not be every mother's dream, but it is my dream. And I love that my kids, this is kind of the story with all my children. They like hanging out with me, probably because I'm a little bit cray-cray, but like they find hanging out with their mom cool. They like being with me. They like me as a person. And I find that to be pretty awesome. So the fact that like my 22-year-old son wants to hang out with me is amazing. Okay, so I have the front and the back sewn together. So there will be a little reinforcing I do and cleaning up these edges at some point. But right now we're just trying to get the sleeves on. All right, let's see what I've done here. I could have created a mess. Okay, there we go. So sleeve 1 is connected. And now all I have to do is connect this part. So I'm going to start right here at the cuff, the sleeve cuff. I'm going to start at the corner. I'm going to work my way across the bottom here. And then I'm going to work into this corner. And the corner can get a little tricky, but as long as you line up your corners together and line up your seams, everything will come together nicely. You may have to put a couple extra stitches in these corners, and then I will come down this way and sew this all up. And then this will all be finished. And then you just do the same thing on the other side. You're gonna just lay out your sweater, just like we did here. Whoops. You're gonna lay out your sweater. You're gonna take your other sleeve, you're gonna flip it upside down because you want it to face out. So right side down, and then on this side, you want right side up, and then you seam it all together, just like we did this side. So I'm gonna do that, and then I'm gonna do a quick little video about like what I've done and what's next for next week, and then we will be finished. Okay, so I've almost got this other side finished. And then I'm going to just seam up the underarm, and our sweater will be put together. There's still a lot more to do. This is kind of the basic construction. So anyway, we have been having a great time. We went to the zoo today and saw the red pandas, we saw the bears, we saw the cutest freaking donkeys ever. We saw the monkeys. We went and walked across the Redwood Walk. I'm actually going to put a little video up here. So what they did was they created a path way up high in the sky that goes through the redwood trees, and it's made out of redwood. And some of the bridges are stable, and then some of them are like swinging bridges, and I don't like those. I don't like them at all. However, the last time we went, I had all the grandchildren with me, the boys and the girls, and they were just like running across them and making them swing and stuff. And I was like, no way, Jose, I am not getting on those with those crazy kids running across there. But it was just me and Ben. And so I would have him go all the way across, and then after he got across, I would go across because I don't like it when they move because they are really, really far, really high up in the trees. But it was really fun. We had a good time. And,
Do you think that is?
too far. Too far. So I've got this one put together. So now I just have to seam up this, the front right here. So I'm going to seam this up. This has been so awkward. I'm seaming the sleeve to the front of the sweater. So I need to make sure that my corners are all even. And that I'm starting in the right place. I have seamed things up before and ended up with like a crooked seam, so we don't want that. I always try to make sure that my clusters are all evenly lined up before I'm I have been looking for some new crochet YouTube videos and really have not found much. So if you've got some favorites, I would love it if you'd share those with me. We kind of messed up my algorithm on YouTube because one night my husband and I, somehow we got talking about king cobras, and he's like, oh, let me show you these videos. And all of a sudden we started watching all these videos about these snake handlers. And now my algorithm is giving me like all these snake videos and spider videos. I do like snake videos, but I do not like spiders. I recognize them for what they are and amazing creatures, but not for me. And so now my algorithm's got all this weird stuff on it. So I'm probably going to have to come in and clean these corners up a little bit. Maybe not. They look pretty good. So as of right now, we've got the front all put together. We've got, okay, so now I've got my front all put together. So there's my front of my sweater and my sleeve. Again, I have not attached it right here. So I've got to do along the bottom of the sleeve and down the side of the sweater. So that is next. And once I get that finished, I will get back to you. So also, when we were leaving the zoo today, I got pulled over. I went through, it's funny because just a few days ago, Scott and I were taking Ben somewhere and we were explaining to him what a California stop was. And we were explaining to him that it's when you kind of roll through the stop sign, which I'm not really prone to doing. I am kind of a rule follower, but today I did it and I got pulled over. So I'm like to Ben, so that is a California stop. And I didn't get a ticket. Actually, the officer, as soon as he came up to my car, I had my license already out. And I said, I know exactly what I did. And I realized it the minute I did it. And I'm so sorry. And he was like, okay, no problem. And he went back and called my license in. And then he came back and he goes, well, it looks like you haven't had any interaction with our department in 37 years. And I was like, that's correct. And he's like, well, here's your license. Have a wonderful day. But please, if you wouldn't mind just being more mindful at the four-way stops. And I was like, absolutely, sir. I apologize. And he was like, no worries. Have fun. And I was like, oh, thank goodness. So all was well. I didn't get a ticket because that's the last thing I need. My insurance is already so high. I don't have any accidents. I don't have any tickets, and it's so high. I went to fill up my tank today, and it's almost $7 a gallon where I live. It's like $6.69 a gallon. That's so painful. Okay, so now we're going to start seaming up the sleeves and the body of the sweater. So it kind of, this is the sleeve and this is the bottom body of the sweater, and then this is like the corner. So trying to decide where I want to start. I think because I want my seam to be facing more towards the front of the sweater, I'm going to start here at the cuff. So I'm just going to put these two edges together and line up my two corners, and then I'm just going to work along until I get to kind of the underarm, and then I'll show you kind of how I manage that. It's kind of not a big deal. Basically, you're just crocheting in every stitch, but I do a little kind of reinforcing under the arm just to make sure. That's an area that gets kind of tugged on a lot, so I do reinforce that area with an extra stitch or two just to make sure. But again, we're just slip stitching in the front piece of this, in the front sleeve, and then slip stitching in the back sleeve. And we're just doing that all the way across, making sure, this is important, you want to make sure that your clusters are matching up, because you want everything to be even. You don't want anything weird going on, so it doesn't lay nicely. So make sure that your clusters are lining up as you're going across, and then when you get to your first seam in your sleeve, and that seam is what seamed your two squares together, this right here, this seam, you want to make sure that your seams are lined up as well. Your front and back seam is lined up. So it's not the end of the world if they don't, but it could make it fit funny, and you want it to look nice. So hopefully, here is my front seam right here. I'm going to make sure that it's lined up with my back seam, which it is. Thank goodness. So we're just going to keep working until we get to the underarm. And sometimes in the underarm, I will like single crochet two together to create a nice kind of corner for the underarm. And I'll show you what that looks like here in a minute. I can't wait to try this on. It's like sliding off the table. I have to work in the kitchen because Ben is shacking up in my base camp, in my yarn room. We've put a bed right in the middle of the room for him. So like literally he's surrounded by yarn. He's got a TV in there, but he is surrounded by yarn, that is for sure. Okay, I'm going to make sure that my corners are lining up. So I'm going to find the corner, the last corner of the arm. And the last corner of the arm is right here on the back. So I've got my front and my back corners lined up right at the last stitch. And then I'm going to do it right here as well, just so I don't get confused. So I've got my 2 corner stitches marked together with stitch markers. It's my corners. This is hard. I don't know that I'll ever do this again because I'm teaching. I'm not really teaching, but you know, showing you all this on camera is much harder. I would much rather do this in person. This is just silliness. But it does encourage me to get a couple more patterns out. I did create a new granny square. I've only shared it with one person. I shared it with Sarah from Crochet with Coffee, and that's it. I haven't shown it to anybody else, but it's super pretty. It's called the boho square. And it is so boho. It is so boho. It is so Angie. It just looks like something I would make. So I'll be sharing that tutorial soon. Okay, so I've made it to my first 2 corners under the arm. And so I've just slip stitched that together. And then I'm gonna probably, right here, I'm gonna add a single crochet 2 together. So I'm just gonna go, I'm gonna put my hook in the stitch. I'm gonna pull up a loop, and then I'm gonna go back down here, pull up a loop, and then yarn over and pull through all 3. And that just kind of reinforces that underarm space. It's not really a stitch there, but I just created one, and it's gonna reinforce. And now I'm just going back to my slip stitches. And I'm gonna slip stitch down and connect this, and then I will be finished with this side. And then I'll slip it on and show you what it looks like. This black is so hard to work with though, because my eyes they're bad already, and this just makes it harder having this black yarn. Okay, got my last stitch here. All right, so we've got the undersleeve and the sides of the sweater now seamed up. And I'll show you. I'll slip it on real quick. There's my sleeve and my sweater. This sleeve's not done yet, so see how it's just kind of flopping around. I think I'm loving it. I might have to bid on this one too. It is gorgeous. I am really liking it. I didn't think I was gonna like the colors, but I am really liking it. Okay, so here's the sleeve. Here is the underarm. So like I said, I'm gonna line up my seam, which is right here, and I'm gonna put a stitch marker into each of these corner stitches so I know when I get to the under armpit. And so right between these 2 stitch markers, I make a stitch right in, almost in the seam on the front and back of a single crochet 2 together. And that helps, that is gonna help it just be a little more sturdy underneath the arm. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and get these, get this seamed up, and then I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, here we are. It's all seamed up. I didn't want those two yellows together. Oh, they're not. Never mind. I thought they were two yellows in the same spot, but they're not. Okay, never mind. So this is the sweater. You can see now what I was talking about with the collar and the opening. We'll play with that next week. Here's the back. Ta-da! It's together. Oh, thank heavens. Okay, so we have finished the week 3 of the Stitching for the Spectrum Mom Hug Granny Square Sweater Make-Along, Crochet Along. I'm telling you. Anyway, this week was fun. I did struggle a little bit with some technology, which is why the video's out a few days late, but here it is. I hope you enjoy it. And remember, next week is all about finishing touches. If you haven't put the sweater together yet, we can talk about that. But this week should be the week you should be putting it together. And we will start thinking about how we're going to add cuffs and what kind of color or trim you want to add to your sweater. For mine, I do pretty simple front post, back post to make a cuff and even to make my collar. But this time I did something a little different on the cuff, and I will share that next week. But I hope you enjoyed the video. I threw just a little bit of everything in there, and it was actually one of my longer videos. I haven't done one that long in a while, so I hope you enjoy. And I will see you next week. Take care, my friends. Bye-bye.